So we have breaking news about Davante Adams and a possible trade that has been worked out between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets. Yes, according to NFL insiders, the Raiders have come to terms with the New York Jets and a trade is underway. Now, the deal with Davante Adams and the Jets still has yet to be signed. That will be worked out over the next couple of days. But as far as the Raiders and the Jets are concerned, this is a done deal. As we were all expecting, there was going to be possibly some type of trade between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets. Though the New York Jets are going through a bit of turmoil after firing their head coach, Robert Saleh, and it was a question mark as to whether or not the Jets would even try to trade for Davante Adams because of that. Well, according to sources close to the front office of the Las Vegas Raiders, it is all but a done deal. That means that Davante Adams will be going. Now, the exact terms of this deal and what the Raiders are going to be getting has not been released yet, not even by the insiders. They're keeping it close to their chest until Davante signs his deal with his new team, the New York Jets. So how this is going to work is Davante Adams will be meeting with the Jets in person. He'll be flying out there to New York, and they will work out the terms of his coming to the team. If the Raiders got what they wanted, which was a second-round draft pick, and the Jets picking up the price tag of the remainder of Davante's contract, then that is great for the Raiders. Not so great for the Jets. And so the terms will be coming out here shortly. We should know by latest Friday afternoon as to what the actual terms of this deal is. Now, according to insiders that are close to the Las Vegas Raiders that I personally speak to, this is a done deal. It is not a question mark. It is not a rumor. It is not clickbait or anything like that. This is all but done. In fact, even Davante Adams' locker has been cleared out, and so he is gone. He has played his last snap as a Raider, and I kind of got the feeling that that was going to be the case once I seen Antonio Pierce's presser today, where he kind of shook off the question of Davante playing this Sunday and said that he'd have more information on Wednesday. And I think that's because he knew that the trade talks were underway with the New York Jets the second the Raiders lost on Sunday, and Davante Adams will be healthy and ready to go for the New York Jets. That's all that they were waiting on. The deal is done, and now they just need a few formalities with Davante Adams and his agents signing their new deal with the New York Jets. Will he rework his deal to be favorable to the New York Jets? Will he sell his house in Las Vegas? We really don't know. But here's one thing I want to point on, and I think that this is critical for all fans, whether you're a Jets fan or you're a Raiders fan. Here's something that is very critical that I think everybody needs to pay attention to. This is not a knock on Davante Adams. Davante Adams is a 32-year-old wide receiver in the NFL. He is still a premier wide receiver. And the Raiders have completely dropped the ball on this season. They started Gardner Minshew. They went out and got Gardner Minshew when there were other quarterbacks who were available who were clearly better than Gardner Minshew. Instead, they should have gone with Aiden O'Connell or go out and try and get somebody with a higher upside, i.e. try to get a Justin Fields. Even a Russell Wilson would have been an upgrade over what you have with Gardner Minshew. And it's not a knock on Gardner Minshew. He's a great athlete. He's a great player. He's a great teammate. And he's a great leader in the locker room. But he's just not a great quarterback. We just got to talk about the elephant in the room. And that is the Raiders have a lack of depth when it comes to the quarterback position. And according to my sources within the Raiders may actually be tanking and they are starting the rebuilding phase because they are apparently very high on Shedeur Sanders. Now, I know there's a lot of different feelings about Shedeur Sanders. Some love him, think he's going to be the next Jaden Daniels. Some think he's going to be the next Lamar Jackson. Some think he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. Some hate him. Some think he's not that good. Some think he doesn't go up against good competition. Some think he gets favoritism with his father. But the Raiders' front office and their scouting team are very high on Shedeur Sanders. And getting rid of Davante Adams is one step further to doing that. You need to stack up draft picks, and that's exactly what the Raiders are doing right now by trading Davante Adams to the New York Jets. They're going to add at least a second-round draft pick. Hopefully that's what they got out of this deal and not a third or a fourth-round draft pick, which would be a terrible deal for the Raiders. But if they at least get a second-round draft pick out of him, you combine a second and a first, depending on where the Raiders end up. If you need to move up in the draft to grab your guy, your future star quarterback, then you're able to do so. Now, I know that there's also a lot of talk about the Raiders even going and trading Max Crosby to the Detroit Lions, who just lost their star defensive end, and we could definitely get a first-round draft pick for him. All of the big talking head shows have made these things. Even Pat McAfee has had a segment on this where the Raiders should trade Max Crosby to the Detroit Lions as the Raiders season is over and the Detroit Lions are odds favorite for the NFC Super Bowl contender. I don't see that happening whatsoever. That would be a huge mistake because if you trade Max Crosby, who is the linchpin of this defense, you essentially destroy any hope of this defense ever being good. It will take years to replace a guy like Max Crosby. We've got him locked into a contract. Christian Wilkins locked into a contract. Defense is going to be a solid defense. We may not be top 5 all the time, but by having these two guys on the defensive line, plus an Adam Butler out there, and if we can get somebody opposite of Max Crosby at defensive end who can actually play well, maybe in the draft next year, maybe in the free agency, we'll have a really good defensive line, and the defense will be a solid unit moving forward. You trade Max Crosby, you've basically told Christian Wilkins that we lied to you, that you came to a terrible franchise, and we don't value you because we just got rid of your partner in crime, Max Crosby, for a draft pick. I don't think we're going to need it because honestly, I'm not sure that the Raiders are going to win more than 5 or 6 games. And there's even rumors in the front office, according to my sources, that if the Raiders don't win at least 8 games this year, Antonio Pierce will be let go and the Raiders will be looking for a new head coach next year. I hope that's not the case. I hope Antonio Pierce can reinvigorate this team because as it stands right now, and I've talked to some people that are in the locker room, and they have told me at the beginning of the season, the Raiders locker room was hyphy. It was hyped up. It was ready to go, energetic. And now the locker room is downtrodden and the guys are simply not believing. In fact, there's even been some pushing and shoving matches and some arguments and some yelling in that locker room between some players. Now, I know who those players are, but I'm not going to put them on blast, so we'll just leave it at that. Right now, the locker room is in a bit of disarray. Antonio Pierce needs to take control of this team. I don't know who is making these decisions, whether it's Tom Telesco or it's Luke Getsy, but Antonio Pierce is the head coach. He's got to get control of this unit. He's got to get control of this locker room, and we got to get some dubs because if not, he'll be fired and we'll be back in rebuild mode again next year.